Hello, hello everyone. Right, my name is Tiger. So I'm a licensed tourist guide here in Malaysia. Today I would like to share with you guys about something about St. Anne Church. In Malaysia, Penang, we have a very special church here. It's a Roman Catholic church, and it's located in the mainland side of Penang. Right. So before I dip further down into the St. Anne Church, I would like to share with you guys about some geographical informations about Penang. And Penang was founded by Captain Francis Light at the years of 1786. Originally, they only took over this part of the island, which is where most of the people well known today, Penang, because of this island part. Some of the people and a lot of the people from overseas, they may not know that some part of the mainland area here in the peninsula Malaysia is also considered part of Penang, right? So today we are talking about St. Anne Church, which is located in the mainland side of Penang, right? So by the years of 1786, that time, Captain Francis Light have successfully taken down these islands of Penang with an agreement that he signed earlier on with the King of Kedah. So previously, before the British arrived here in the Peninsula Malaysia, this part of the Penang Island, it was belonged to the kingdoms of Kedah, right? So that time, by the years of 1786, this arrival of Captain Francis Light on behalf of this British East India Company, they have come with the agreement with Kedah to lease over these islands of Penang. So that time they pay about 6,000 Spanish dollars a year to the King of Kedah to lease over these parts of the islands of Penang, right? And on top of it, that time this Captain Francis Light as well, he agreed to give protections to Kedah, right? From any foreign invaders. And that time Kedah was strongly being attacked by Siam, which is the current Thailand, and also Burma, which is current Myanmar. So in order to reduce the possibility of their territory being exploited by these foreign powers of Siam and Burma, the King of Kedah at the time, by the years of 1786, came in with the agreement with Captain Francis Light so that he was able to give some protections to the territory of Kedah, right? And but that time, this King of Kedah, without acknowledging that the agreement that he signed was between the king himself with the Captain Francis Light, and not I need to strengthen it, not with the British East India Company. So what is the difference? The difference here is, if let's say you sign a contract with that particular person and not the company don't have the responsibility over the contracts, right? So what happened next was, because that time Captain Francis Light would not able to get the approval by the British East India Company in the earlier terms to recognize Penang as part of their territory. So during the first 4 years tenure of Captain Francis Light administration here in Penang, it was really only between him and some part of his small group of his navy which taking care of this island, right? So when Kedah was under the attack of Siam during that particular moment after the agreement signed, he come and seek help from this Captain Francis Light. But Captain Francis Light at that time, because of his limited amounts of soldier or navy that he have on this island, he didn't actually provide protections against the Siam attack on Kedah, right? So finally, at the years of 1791, this King of Kedah, he became very angry, and he launched attacks on these islands of Penang, right? So in this part of Penang, and at the time he have a lots of soldiers gathered at this point, this part of this mainland area of Penang, to attack Captain Francis Light. But of course, imagine the kind of weapons of the British that have that time. Without doubts, the British have successfully have defeated the king of Kedah, right? We don't know this. Finally, after the years of 1791, the islands of Penang finally get recognitions from British East India Company as part of their territory, right? So only after the years of 1791, right, it's been recognized by the British. Okay, so it went all the way until the years of 1800. So what happened was the time Captain Fr had passed away, so he played no roles in the acquisitions of the mainland South Penang. So this captain, the guy who actually took over from Captain Fr later on, his name is known as George Alexander William Lake. By the year of 1800, he started to felt that this part of the territory, so you can see here, right, this part of the territory is very vulnerable, right, because the Kedah, when they feel not happy, they can actually come towards this area and send threats to the this part of the islands of Penang, right, to attack this part of the island of Penang. So in order to protect this part of the straits, which is very important at the time, which is most of the people having do trading in Georgetown area, which is at this area, he came up with the idea of taking down some part of the mainland area as the protections against this part of the straits, right? So by the year of 1800, he go into the agreement with the king of Kedah again, and he signed up another agreement. He agreed to pay additional 4,000 Spanish dollars a year on top of the 6,000 which is on these islands of Penang, to make it up to 10,000 Spanish dollars a year to lease over this island and also some part of the mainland area. Okay, so finally he actually take part of it, and this area in the old day, right, the first initial year, you can see the color keep on looping at the year 1800. This part you can see just now, it was actually known as Perai or Seberang Perai. So the word Perai is actually referring to, it's a Thai word, right? The Thai word referring to the end, right? The end of border, right? So the time initially, the regions that they get is actually from here, right? The middle part of here to till the end of here, right? It's not the current whole existing of the mainland South Penang. It covers some parts about 189 square kilometers, right? And until the Batu Kawan area, which is currently now, which is about this area, right? Batu Kawan area, right? So only after the years of 1831, where the British and Siam, the time, right? Because Siam have successfully conquered down Kedah by that particular moment, and they came up with the agreement with the Siam at the time, and Kedah become part of this territory at the time, to enlarge it from the north here. There's a river here in Penang known as the Muda River. From here, the Muda River, till the Perai River, which is at this area, right? So the territory expanded from the north to the south in these areas by the years of 1831, right? 1831. And finally, the expansion grew again by the years of 1869 to the eastern part, right, which is here, right, with this another agreement signed with the Siam, right. So the time expanded to here, which is near to the Bukit Panchor, which is current Nibong Tabao areas. Finally, at the years of 1874, the final treaty that we signed with the states of Perak, right, known as the Bangkok Treaty, expanded further south of Penang to the current area known as Krian River, right? The Krian River towards the south make up the whole territory of Penang today, right? In the mainland, right? So why I tell you so much about this territorial issue? Because it's very important for you to understand where is the locations of the mainland in order for you to know where is St. Anne Church located, right? So let me go back to the PowerPoint, right? So this will be what we'll be discussing today, and these are some of the brief history of this town that I've glanced through, right? So Catholicism, so Catholicism in Penang, right? It was first started off by Martina Rosell. So you must know that British, they are actually Anglican. They are not really Roman Catholic. They are Anglican. So basically, Anglican, they are part of Protestants, and for many years, Roman Catholic and Anglican or Protestant should be more correct with, they are not in the same line. So they don't really like each other, and they always fight with each other for many years. So it will be a very strange thing to know that British that time they were actually Anglican. So Anglican, they are parts of Protestants, you can say. But in Penang, you can see a rise of a lot of Catholic church. I would even say that today there are more Roman Catholic church that you can find in Penang than the Anglican church themselves, right? So this is very strange because British, they are Anglican, but why there is such a huge influence of Catholicism, right, in Penang, right? So it starts off with Captain Francis Light. So Captain Francis Light, when he first arrived here in Penang, he actually fell in love with a very beautiful lady here. Her name is known as Martina Roselle. This Martina Roselle, she was born here. She was a Eurasian. She's a Eurasian. She was born in the state of Kedah, right? Remember the state of Kedah? So she has some mixed blood and a Portuguese mixture with the local people. So some even call her to be the princess of Kedah, right? And this Captain Francis Light at the time, he fell in love with these beautiful ladies, right? So without doubt, upon taking down these islands of Penang, he have actually brought Martina Roselle along to these islands of Penang. And Martina Roselle herself is a very strong Roman Catholic, right? So upon of arrival of Martina Roselle, she have actually brought along the bishops to these islands and set up the first so-called the church, the Roman Catholic Church here in Penang, at Church Street in Georgetown area, place I've been to, and that areas, and that church was known as the Church of the Assumption, right? So that is actually the beginning of all the Catholicism here in Penang. And another thing about British was that they give pretty much a huge freedom in religion in Penang that time, right? Because their main purpose of taking down this area was not really do with much on missionaries. So for them, they are unlike the Spanish or the French. Usually when they take down the areas, they also go with missionaries so that they can spread more on their religion into that particular soil. But for somehow for British who take over this part of the areas, their main missions here was not really because of missionaries most of the time, and it was because of profit making. So because of that, the religions or the belief in these areas, they just grow by itself over the years, and you can see there's an increase of many religious practice without influence in these areas, right? So that come to be the French Catholic missionaries finally arrived after the Penang was taken over, and at that time there is an increase in Chinese and Indian Catholic devotees in this area because of the French Catholic missionaries, right? So first of all, after they took down the mainland side of Penang, as I mentioned earlier, right? So a lot of Chinese arrived here in the Penang at the time to work as a tin miner, not really in Penang, but then in some other areas. 我录音着。 So I'm increased in a lot of Chinese tin mining and also rubber tapper. So they settled down in somewhere in Batu Kawan area, a place known as Junjung River, right? Junjung River. And that time, right, more and more Chinese and Indian, they are actually Catholics, right? So finally, at the years of 1833, right, the first sanctuary was set up at the Batu Kawan area, right, Batu Kawan areas. right? So it takes some time, right, for these Chinese Catholics to be settled, because the time Bukit Mertajam was known as the center, because there was a train stations that covering some of the mainland areas passing through Bukit Mertajam area. So a lot of Chinese have actually migrated to the foothill in the areas of Bukit Mertajam, right? Another city located in the mainland areas of Penang. And as these Chinese Catholic move on to that areas, they need to do servicing almost every weekend, right? So it's a kind of troublesome thing for them to go all the way from Bukit Mertajam all the way to Batu Kawan, which was only the only sanctuary that we have at the time, to do their perishing, right? So in order to make it to east and increase of Catholic Chinese Catholic in this particular region of Bukit Mertajam city, finally at the years of 1846, right, the first St. Anne's parish was built at the Bukit Mertajam area, which is current St. Anne Church area. On the hilltop, there was a small hill there. On the hilltop areas was built by this Fr Adolphe Coullen, right? If let's say I pronounce it correctly. If not, then very sorry. Please correct me if let's say I'm wrong, right? So on the hilltop areas of a small hilltop areas in that area, in that particular area, they built up this small parish center. Right? So after that, because it continued to increase huge population of Catholic in these areas, finally by the 1865, Father Maestri have built the second chapel at the foothill area. So the first one was on top of the hill, and the second one, which is right at the ground level, right? So today, this the second chapel is no longer visible because it has been abolished, and it's actually located right behind the St. Anne waterfall area. So if let's say pay a visit to this St. Anne sanctuary, and right behind the St. Anne Pond area, it used to be the second chapel of this St. Anne church that was built at the years of 1865, right? So until right the years of 1888, right, finally the time again, because of the huge influx of a lot of Chinese and Tamil, Chinese typically Hakka, right? Chinese Hakka speaking Catholics, and also Indian Tamil speaking Catholics, right? So finally, at the years of 1888, Father Sorin, right? Father Sorin have built the third church in this area. So this third church is also today known as the old church of St. Anne. Visible, still pretty much the same, right? When you see it when you arrive at St. Anne Church, the old church area. So in these old church areas, inside there, you can find the cemetery of this Father Sorin. So not many church in the world that you can see this, where the one who built it have actually buried himself, right? Buried into this church, right? So this is the third old church. So by that time, this old church, it have the capacity of about 700 parisher. So you can count that about 700 devotees at one time to do a prayers, right? So you can see there was a huge increase from earlier on. We're talking about 100, 190 to now. By the years of 1888, there rose to be more than about 700 at the time. You can see, right? That one. So after that, sadly, during the war period, talking about 1914 onwards and 1945, the Second World War, especially during the Second World War, this church was taken over by the Japanese at the time. So not a lot of the the fathers. The fathers that time have actually migrated, and the father at the time, known as Joachim Teng, have bought over just right before the Second World War. They have actually bought over, right, another piece of land, which is not far away, about 2 kilometers away from the original sites, for preparation use, right? And finally, during the Second War, after the Second War ended, and they thought that they can go back again to use the church, but they are not very lucky, because after that, after the British arrived back into Malaysia, we have this Malayan emergency, which started off at the years of 1948 and until all the way until the years of 1960, right? So during this Malayan emergency, these particular foothill areas, or the Bukit Mertajam areas, are also known as the blacklisted areas. So these blacklisted areas, which means that they have a high risk of getting in touch with the communist insurgency, with the communist soldier. So in order to avoid that, at the time they have so-called curfew and migrations of large populations of Chinese villages to a new village, right? Especially to Sungai Lembu and etc. Right. So by that time, a lot of migrant, and also interrupted a lot of the servicing practice in this area, right? So finally, on the years of 1958, right, 1956, the time they have intentions of building up a new church at this land, which bought over by Father Joachim Teng at the years of 1938, about 2 kilometers away from the original site. And finally, at the years of 1956, they start the building of this new church in this area to accommodate the parishes, so that they can have a place to do their parishing, right? So and finally, by the end of the 1958, which is a year after the independence of Malaysia, this new church finally completed. Today, this new church is still visible at the they have converted these areas into a school. So let's say we visited this school known as Kim Sen, the Kim Sen Elementary School, then you're able to see these churches still visible there. Today is known as St. Joachim Hall. Right? So these churches remain all the way in usage, all the way until the millennium, right? So towards the year of 2002, I should say, the Catholics here have grown in a huge amount, and they need to build a bigger one to accommodate all these new Catholics. And back into the original sites, they still have a huge piece of land that are underutilized. So by the years of 2002, right, a new St. Anne's Sanctuary was built by Father Michael Chia, right, and the whole design of this new church was inspired by the Malay Minangkabau design. Right? So you can see here the three-tier roof here. So referring to the Christians' belief of the Trinity gods. So the Trinity gods here referring to the Father, Sons, and the Holy Spirit. So you can see the whole tier roof is on 3 layers. Okay, because of this. Okay. So inside this new church, you'll find there are quite a lot of different mosaic pieces. I'm going to show some mosaic pieces here. Okay, the first one, right, which is the Pentecost, right? The Pentecost on the south wing, right at the entrance areas. So here you can see there are the famous 12 apostles of Jesus Christ. So out of these 12 apostles here, you can see in the middle, before the middle, you can see there is actually a dove, right? A dove here referring to the tangible forms of the Holy Spirit. So for Christians, I believe that the dove is always represent the tangible form of this Holy Spirit. So the fire, spreading the fires, these fires referring to the blessing to all the 12 apostles, right? So in the middle here, the one with the yellow shirts is known as Saint Peter. So he holding to a key, right? So this key is believed that was given by Jesus Christ to Saint Peter, and given him the authority as to entrance, the key entrance to the heaven and earth, right? So Saint Peter's have the key to the heaven and earth, right? So right behind you can see a person here. His face is slightly different from others. While others is looking for the sky, praying. We have this guy here looking at the sideway. He's known as the Saint Thomas, right? So this Saint Thomas, one of the apostles, he also have a story behind, right? So he's known as the doping Saint Thomas, because this event supposedly it took place, right, after the crucifixions of Jesus Christ, and lots of the most of the apostles here, they believe that Jesus Christ will research, right, will come back, right. He is not deaf. He will come back again, right, in visible form, to help the world. But this Saint Thomas, he have doubts in it. He's of doubts, right? He have doubts that Jesus Christ will survive the crucifixions. So finally, he appeared one day, right in front of him, and this has stunned Saint Thomas that time, and pledging to Jesus Christ and telling him that he will believe in all the teachings without doubt from that moment onwards, right? So Saint Thomas later on also, let's say historical, he went to India and become a great missionary in India in spreading the Christianities there, right? So this is the Pentecost in the south wing, and the west wing areas you will see another mosaic. In this mosaic here, you will see there is two ladies and a small kids here. So this lady in the middle, she's Saint Anne. So Saint Anne is actually the grandmother of Jesus Christ, right? So she's wearing the so-called the green and brown color outfit. This green and the brown color here referring to hope and faithfulness, right? So on my left, right, on your, if you're looking at it, and this side it should be on the left. So on the left here, this lady here, she is the Virgin Mary, right? So she is the mother of Jesus Christ. So this mother of Jesus Christ is holding on to the hand of little kids of Jesus, right? So over here you can see there is a small lily pond, right? The lilies here. So the lily here is used to signify the purity and holiness of the church, right? So purity and holiness. And when you see Jesus Christ here, you can also see there is two lambs, right? So these two lambs, one referring to good shepherds, a blessing of God. This Jesus Christ will become a good shepherd, and also the pastor of a church in the future, right? So these two represent that. And the third one, you can see here the nativity. So this nativity here show you how Jesus Christ, how he was born during the first moment when he was born. So Jesus Christ, when he was born, this is Virgin Mary, as I mentioned, right? So Virgin Mary, with the name of Virgin Mary, means she still remained virgin even after giving birth to Jesus Christ, right? So that comes the mother name, Virgin Mary, right? So over here, who is this, right? So this is actually Joseph, right? So look at wow. So this is actually Joseph. Joseph is actually the father, I should say. Maybe you can say not biological. The husbands of Virgin Mary. So in other words, he is also the father of Jesus Christ, apart from the gods, right? This is the nativity. So again, you will see the two lambs here. One is referring to the good shepherds, and also the goods. He will become a future pastor, right? So here. So we have the last of the four of the mosaic. So here you can see the ministry of Jesus. So Jesus, after he grew up, he have get he actually get to be a lot smarter, and he have that kind of aura to influence people with his talk, and he's very good in sharing a lot of information about peace, love, and justice that make him to become a very famous guy at the time, right? So this is the ministry of Jesus. You can see about he sharing his view on the world, especially the time was where the Romans are really on the downstream time. So a lot of the people were suffering, but Jesus Christ just emerged in that particular hard times to help on this group of the people. So this inside the church, inside the new church, St. Anne Sanctuary as well, you will see of course there will be this baptistry area. So in this baptistry area, you will also see there is a picture right behind, right? So this is the picture where Jesus Christ get that baptized by his cousin at this Jordan River area, right? So this is the whole of the St. Anne Church in brief. I hope you all understand a little bit more about this particular St. Anne Church. If that's your do, please share around this video. Right? Thank you.